What is the Chinese Communist Party getting as a result of cutting in 10% for the big guy?
Plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan.
Indicative of being a violent extremist militia. Well, I will self-report right now that every day in the Senate I wear my boots.
FBI whistleblowers have come forward and reported the FBI committed a widespread effort within the FBI to downplay or discredit negative information about Hunter Biden.
And you won't tell me whether the President of the United States is compromised.
What are y'all doing?
Is Hunter Biden a national security threat?
That's not a question that would come up before me, Congressman.
You're the head of the National Security Division, so it seems sort of on the nose.
It's not in my practice or experience to identify individuals
Not in my purview.
and to
We've
label
heard that before.
any individual, an American citizen, or any individual as a national security threat.
Well, you would certainly concede that if the adult offspring of the President of the United States or the Vice President were compromised, that would be a national security threat, right?
We speak through our filings in court, and we speak through our actions in open court. So I would,
Okay, well,
I would
speak to this.
remain
Where's the
in
laptop?
that position.
Do you know where Hunter Biden's laptop is?
Again, I'm not going to talk about any potential ongoing
do you know where it
investigation
is?
as I sit
do
here.
you know where it is?
I'm not going to talk about any ongoing
You
investigation.
come here and you tell us you follow the facts and the law, but you can't even follow a laptop that you guys have had for 3 years.
We follow the facts and the law, and we speak in open court about our
Yeah,
cases.
but you aren't speaking about this. But you know who is speaking about it? The whistleblowers from the FBI who've gone to Senator Grassley and said that you guys purposefully take any information that is derogatory about Hunter Biden and you go and rat hole it so that you never have to speak about it in any circumstance. But the good news is you're not the only ones with that laptop. So Patrick Ho was convicted of bribing government officials in Africa, and he gave $1 million to Hunter Biden. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not going to speak about any ongoing investigation.
Is that an ongoing?
I can assure
is
you
that an ongoing investigation?
I'm not going to.
Patrick
I'm not going to
Ho
speak about any potential ongoing
Like, don't you
investigation.
see that degrades the country's belief in you guys when you have whistleblowers saying that you're purposefully rat-holing this information, and then you come here and say you won't talk about it? I mean, you know, inside Hunter Biden's multi-million-dollar deals with a Chinese energy company, Washington Post, Matt Vizier, Chinese elite paid $31 million to Hunter and the Bidens, Peter Schweitzer in the New York Post. Hunter Biden's business partner called Joe Biden the big guy in panicked messages. Do you guys call Joe Biden the big guy at the Department of Justice?
So I think it's important to understand why we don't speak about cases outside of the courtroom.
But by the way,
we
I already know why.
Sir, if I may answer the question.
You know
May I
why you
answer
don't
the
speak
question?
about it? Because it's about Hunter Biden. You guys have no problem leaking about other stuff, right? Like, you got no problem going out and tagging parents at school board meetings as a national security threat. But when all of the facts and all of the law are before you regarding the corruption of Hunter Biden, you don't want to speak to that at all. And it's precisely why you've got folks that are talking to Senator Grassley about it. Bohai Harvest. So 10 days after Vice President Biden takes Hunter Biden to China, 10 days after, this long, toiling venture of Hunter Biden that can't get off the ground, 10 days after they go, he automatically gets approved. So for a deal in China with Bohai Harvest. Like, have you guys looked into that?
I'm not going to talk about any ongoing investigation.
Well, you know who else is talking? Tony Bobolinsky. Tony Bobolinsky told the world that Joe Biden was cut in on a CCP energy deal that was orchestrated by Hunter Biden. Like, have you guys talked to Tony Bobolinsky?
Again, we don't talk about ongoing investigations in settings such as this.
So Joe Biden, well, okay, how about this? Will you commit to a classified briefing on these matters?
I'd certainly be happy to talk to you or any member of the committee about matters of national security.
Okay, well,
but
is this a matter of national security?
We do not talk outside of courtrooms about ongoing investigations.
Well, is there an ongoing investigation of the annual fund dinner that happened where Joe Biden was Vice President of the United States and Hunter Biden holds his fund's annual dinner at the Chinese embassy? But in order to do that, in order to get the Chinese embassy to roll out the red carpet for Hunter Biden and to raise money for his fund, he had to go to the embassy 30 minutes before and have a one-on-one meeting with the Chinese ambassador. Do you think it's possible that that meeting might have jeopardized national security?
I'm not going to comment about any potential or ongoing investigation.
Well, here's the thing. It's pretty easy to see that Hunter Biden is compromised. I think every American knows that's a threat to national security. I think we're watching a crime spree in progress that Hunter Biden is orchestrating. And one has to wonder, what are the Chinese getting for the tens of millions of dollars that they're cutting the Biden family in on? What is the Chinese Communist Party getting as a result of cutting in 10% for the big guy? And I just happen to notice that, like, you guys canceled the China initiative that President Trump put in place, where you focus talent on those things. You know, Jim Biden said to Tony Bobulinski that the reason they're able to get away with this corruption is plausible deniability. And that is precisely the plausible deniability that you are animating and exemplifying today. And you know what? Winter's coming. We're going to be in the majority, and then you're going to have to answer these questions for the country.
Director Wray, I'm deeply concerned that the FBI and the Department of Justice have become thoroughly politicized. I think this is a problem that began during the Obama administration. I think it metastasized with career officials during the Trump administration, and I think it continues and is even worse today under the Biden administration. I don't believe you personally reflect that politicization, but I think you've been unwilling to root it out and unwilling to hold people accountable for the politicization. I hear regularly from FBI agents and from professionals at the Department of Justice who are dismayed that our law enforcement has been weaponized and politicized rather than remaining apolitical as it has been for the history of our country. Yesterday, it was reported that Project Veritas had obtained a copy of an FBI training material, which listed various symbols and themes which, in the FBI's estimation, were indicative of, quote, militia violent extremism. Now, these symbols weren't things like the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party, which naturally would be symbols of that, but instead they included, rather astonishingly, patriotic symbols of our nation and our history. Included on this list is the Betsy Ross flag. Now, that's fairly remarkable that the Betsy Ross flag in the FBI's indication is indicative of militia violent extremism, because among other people who have been publicly alongside the Betsy Ross flag, we have President Barack Obama, who was sworn in directly underneath two Betsy Ross flags. But it's not just President Obama. We also have President Biden, who was sworn in under Betsy Ross flags. It's not just the Betsy Ross flag. Also on this list is the Gadsden flag as a symbol of violent extremism. Now, the state of Virginia has a license plate for the Gadsden flag, as do many other states. I think people would be astonished to find that having that license plate, the FBI indicates that you're a violent extremist. Also included on this is a text that I was particularly struck, is the Gonzales battle flag. Come and take it. As indicative of being a violent extremist militia. Well, I will self-report right now that every day in the Senate I wear my boots that have the Gonzales battle flag on the back of them. Director Wray, what are y'all doing? This makes no sense. Do you agree with this FBI guidance that the Betsy Ross flag and the Gadsden flag and the Gonzales battle flag are signs of militia violent extremism?
Well, Senator, I'm not familiar with the particular document you have behind you, and I'm not in the practice of trying to comment on documents that I haven't recognized, but I will tell you that when we put out intelligence products, including ones that reference symbols, which we do across a wide variety of contexts, we usually take great pains to put caveats and warnings in the document that make clear that a symbol alone is not considered evidence of violent extremism, and it's...
Well, but Director Wray, you don't include things like Antifa, you don't include things like Black Lives Matter. Instead, you identify patriotic Americans as suspects, and I would note there's a pattern of this. As you're aware, the National Association of School Boards asked the Attorney General to investigate parents as domestic terrorists under the Patriot Act. Now, it did so because it was upset about moms and dads coming to school boards and disagreeing with the policies of those schools. 5 days after that letter, the Attorney General sent a memo to you directing the FBI to target parents for investigation. Since that time, the National Association of School Boards has apologized for the letter because it was so indefensible, but that hasn't stopped the FBI. In fact, you've created a specific threat tag directed at parents. So let me ask you, how many moms and dads who have spoken up at school boards has the FBI interviewed or investigated since the memo from the Attorney General?
Well, first off, I'll say I'm not aware of any. But second, let me address the issue.
You're not aware of any? Like
Yes,
the House of
if you'd let me-
Representatives has
if you-
written you and asked
If
you
you would
about
let me, if you would let me.
So please
finish,
answer.
Let me say to you and to this committee the same thing I said to every FBI field office after I read the memo, which was that the FBI is not going to be in the business of investigating speech or policing speech at school board meetings or anywhere else, and that we're not about to start now, that threats of violence, that's a different matter altogether, and there we will work with our state and local partners as we always have.
I will point out the House of Representatives has sent you oversight letters detailing dozens of investigations under a threat tag directed at parents, moms and dads who G-men have come in because they spoke out against mask mandates or vaccine mandates or critical race theory, and suddenly the G-men show up. And this was after the Attorney General claimed it wasn't happening. And so the pattern, sadly, we've seen, you say you don't know how many there are. The follow-up will be I'll send you a letter, and you'll send back a letter that says I refuse to answer it. Let me give another example. Recently, there was the case against individuals charged with kidnapping and murdering Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. That case ended up an absolute debacle where the 4 people who went to trial, 2 of them were acquitted, 2 received mistrials. None of them were convicted on even a single charge, and the basis of the defense was entrapment, that the FBI, that paid enforcements for the FBI, had suggested and had incited the conduct. Let me ask you, how many FBI agents were disciplined or reprimanded after that disastrous case and the misconduct that led to every defendant being acquitted or having a mistrial on every charge?
Senator, I can't comment on a personnel matter. I can tell you that that case, as I understand it, is now pending a retrial, as I understand it.
Well, the special agent in charge of that case has now been sent to D.C., to the Washington, D.C. office, and now leads the investigation regarding January 6th. Is that correct?
That doesn't sound right to me.
That does not sound right. The name of the individual is Stephen D'Antuono. It was run out of the FBI Detroit field office. And by the way, I will point out that the lead investigator, Special Agent Track, are you aware that he was apparently fired for allegedly beating his wife after coming home from a swingers party, and he'd made multiple derogatory political posts about President Trump showing political bias? Are you aware of that?
I am aware of, I think, the incident you're describing and action that was taken about it. To clarify on the first part of your question, Mr. D'Antuono was the special agent in charge of the office, the Detroit field office, and is now the assistant director in charge of the Washington field office. I thought you were asking about the agent who was responsible for the
So the guy in charge got promoted and is now in charge of the January 6th investigation.
The guy in charge of the whole Detroit field office is now in charge of the whole Washington field office.
That is astonishing.
This is the most exquisite spying software in the world. It's zero-click. It can get at people's phones. It's been used to target politicians, journalists, dissidents in some places. And here you have L3 saying that they were encouraged to go buy it from the national security apparatus. It's very important, under oath, for you to tell me whether any of those people were at the National Security Division.
So, I'm sure you can appreciate I don't have any information about the public reporting. I'm aware of public reporting relating to that, but I don't have any other information.
No, but so what you're saying, is that a yes or is that a no? Because we're going to find out eventually.
I'm not going to comment any further.
Wait a second. Whether or not our own government used a private company as a cutout to go buy spying software that deprives people's rights. And what you're saying is, I'm not going to get a yes out of you, and I'm not going to get a no out of you because you're just not going to tell. You don't think the American people deserve to know that?
So I'm not aware of The facts that you're asserting.
You know what Pegasus
I'm not aware of
is.
the facts that you're asserting.
You know what Pegasus is.
Yes, I definitely have heard of
Okay, so you
Pegasus.
should be able to tell me whether or not anyone who works at the National Security Division was out there trying to goose some private company to go buy it for you guys to use. Yeah. Did you or did you not?
So I'm not aware of any facts that relate to your question.
I think you are.
The federal jury appears to have found that the FBI entrapped people in a matter involved in an alleged plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan. The jury acquitted 2 defendants and hung on 2 others. You're familiar with that case, sir?
Yes, sir, I am familiar with that particular prosecution.
All right. You've emphasized the importance of the DOJ's domestic terrorism mission, or of that risk central to the national security mission.
Yes.
Is that case a fair representation of how DOJ is handling domestic terrorism matters?
I would include that case among many others that are part of our efforts to ensure that people who serve in public office are safe.
I think the importance is undeniable. The question is whether that's what FBI is doing. Let me just go on a little further. The evidence that the jury heard, mostly in text messages and testimony of agents and informants of the FBI, was that the FBI did not discover an existing scheme and take the plot, collect evidence and take down plotters. Instead, the FBI appears to have contrived the plot, used its informants to draw people into the plot, and provided logistical and financial support to what was, in effect, an FBI operation. And the board behind me details just some of the resources that were devoted to the op. You had a lead informant, a guy named Big Dan, who was paid $54,000 over 6 months to pretend to lead a fake militia to recruit really disadvantaged and unstable men from a Facebook discussion group. One of them was living in the cellar of a vacuum repair shop. FBI paid travel expenses for people involved, food, even alcoholic beverages to take the targeted folks to a militia conference out of state. There were more than a dozen FBI informants involved in the process, undercover FBI agent, several of them, one of whom purported to teach how to make a bomb and used a bomb video produced by the FBI. At one point, according to the New York Times, there was a nighttime surveillance at Governor Whitmer's vacation cabin, and 4 of the participants were informants, including Big Dan, or undercover agents. At one point, when the group was sort of falling apart in August 2020, the FBI handler congratulated Big Dan, said, quote, "Look at you, bringing people together." Now, he congratulated him for breathing new life into the plot. Not as well known, the same FBI agent, Jason Chambers, coached Big Dan in a parallel scheme to recruit folks into a contrived plot against former Virginia Governor Northam. And at one point, he's asked by Big Dan how to couch the plan to one of the recruits, and Chambers wrote, quote, "Mission is to kill the governor," specifically. So again, now that's the evidence I understand from the trial. Don't know that it's a complete sampling of it, Mr. Attorney General, but is that the kind of conduct that DOJ and FBI are engaged in pursuing domestic terrorism matters?
So I'm sure you can appreciate that case, as you know, involves defendants charged with kidnapping the governor of Michigan. It's an ongoing case. The judge has ordered a retrial, and that retrial is set. Given that it's an ongoing case, I simply can't comment on any of the questions you've asked.
Well, it's not ongoing as to 2 defendants. They've been acquitted by a jury. I understand that DOJ has decided to retry 2 other defendants, but the evidence is what the evidence has been. That's been public. There's been media stories written about it across the ideological spectrum. It's not like this is some kind of right-wing notion. Don't those revelations impair the credibility of the FBI, which you said earlier is very important?
Again, that case the judge has ordered that case be retried. It's an ongoing matter, and I can't comment further.
How many FBI informants, agents, respectively, were involved in that operation?
I'm not going to comment about that particular case.
How much did the FBI spend on it?
It's an ongoing case. It's set for retrial, so I'm not going to comment on it.
The alleged Whitmer plot was announced October 7, 2020, within a month before the U.S. presidential election. How come that timing for the FBI's announcement of this plot?
That's an ongoing case. I'm not going to comment on it. I can tell you that in every case, we follow the facts and the evidence and the law, and we do so without regard to politics or ideology.
FBI's got a notorious history on exactly that kind of thing, and you have no comment about that exposure of that during the month before the presidential election, or the propriety of
Gentleman's
doing
time has
it.
expired. The gentlewoman from Pennsylvania
I'll let
is
him answer the
recognized.
question. Usually that's the practice, is he gets to answer the question that I've posed.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did ask a question.
Okay, yes, you may answer the question.
That's an ongoing case. It's set for a retrial. The judge has set it for a retrial. So I'm not-
There is a secret workspace at the Perkins law firm that is maintained by the Department of Justice. Has any information flowed through that secret workspace to the National Security Division?
I'm not familiar with the premise of your question. In other words, I'm not familiar with the facts that you've asserted in your question.
So you're not aware of the workspace that the Department of Justice maintains at the Perkins law firm?
Correct.
And you can't tell me whether or not the National Security Division has ever received information that has flown through the law firm that is functionally the legal wing of the Democratic Party?
Correct.
And I just keep going back to the plausible deniability from the Biden family. And speaking of the Biden family, since our last conversation, Mr. Olsen, a remarkable piece came out in Fox News entitled "Joe Biden Met with at least 14 of Hunter's business associates while vice president." Now, I know that you're not going to answer any questions about Hunter Biden with the ongoing investigation answer that you've given me previously, but is Joe Biden compromised?
So I should be clear, I'm not going to comment on that question because I do not comment on any matter that may or may not be a matter of investigation. To the extent my comments previously were construed as confirming an investigation, that would be a mistake.
Well,
I'm neither confirming an investigation nor am I denying an investigation. I'm simply saying
It was in
I
both
am
your
not
eyes and yours.
commenting on any potential investigation.
Do you think the American people deserve to know whether or not the first family is compromised?
We speak through our filings in court at the Justice Department. We do not make allegations without
it's
going
interesting
to
you said
court.
that because
we base
yesterday you all spoke through some leaks, right? I mean, recently you had Lester Holt interviewing Attorney General Garland, and Lester Holt asked him a lot of questions about whether or not President Trump was being investigated for January 6th. And just like you, A.G. Garland was, repeating the premises of prosecutorial pathways, and then lo and behold, the same day, the Department of Justice didn't speak through any filings. They went and leaked to the Washington Post that they were investigating President Trump. So it seems like when it's the Biden family, you all are all buttoned up with all of your propriety about not talking about these things. But when it's a Republican, when it's President Trump, you all love to go have your authorized leaks. Here's my question to you. Are you aware of an authorized leak to the Washington Post the same day as A.G. Garland sat down with Lester Holt?
No.
And you think, as you sit here as the representative of the National Security Division before the House Judiciary Committee, that we aren't owed an answer as to whether or not the Biden family is compromised? You just don't think we deserve that?
We speak through our filings in court. That's part of the rule of law. It's designed to protect the rights of anyone who may be accused, and it's designed to protect the integrity of the investigation. It's a central pillar of the Justice Department.
Well, it's one you violate all the time. I mean, even Mr. Horowitz, the Obama-appointed Inspector General, has given us report after report of where Department of Justice employees are off getting tickets to baseball games and fancy dinners with the reporters in exchange for giving them information. So can you at least acknowledge that you don't live up to that pillar with great precision?
We speak through what we say in court. We protect the integrity of our investigation.
You speak through what you say in court, what you say to the Washington Post, what Jim Comey leaks to his professor buddy, what's kind of said between people at a baseball game where you guys are getting special treats and special treatment from the media. I mean, and so he leaks to his with great precision.
We speak through what we say in court. We protect the integrity of our investigation.
You speak through what you say in court, what you say to the Washington Post, what Jim Comey leaks to his professor buddy, what's kind of said between people at a baseball game where you guys are getting special treats and special treatment from the media. I mean, and so you see the political bias. We are living in a time where the American people have the lowest perception and belief in the integrity of the Justice Department since your inception. And it's not because we're asking tough questions. It's because you sit here and stonewall us and don't give us answers. I mean, just in this series of questions, you won't tell me whether or not our own government was out there trying to operate through a cutout to buy software that spies on Americans illegally and improperly. You won't tell me whether or not the legal wing of the Democratic Party was passing you information that was actually opposition research, then to be recategorized and repackaged as national security information, and you won't tell me whether the President of the United States is compromised when we know he's lying. I mean, like Joe Biden came out and said repeatedly that he never talked to Hunter Biden about business. And here you have 14 documented meetings. So like, are you guys ever going to investigate this, or is it just going to be what Mr. Thibault said, what Mr. Grassley said, and that is that you guys are basically political shills? I mean, look, this is what Mr. Grassley said. If these allegations are true and accurate, the Justice Department and FBI are and have been institutionally corrupted to their very core, to the point at which the United States Congress and the American people will have no confidence in the equal application of the law. Can't you see that's what your behavior is continuing to just metastasize?
So we don't conduct our investigations in public.
Yeah, you leak them. That's what you do.
And we take-
You leak them to try to smear people.
The gentleman's time has expired. You may answer the question.
We take care that the assertions we make about facts are based on facts and evidence and are not reckless and false.
Well,
That is the way.
This isn't
Gentleman's
false.
time
This
has
isn't
expired.
reckless, and you're just choosing not to investigate
Gentleman's
it because
time
it's
has
the Bidens.
expired.
We take care to make sure that our assertions and we make in court are based on the facts and the truth. And in the pursuit of justice, that's our solemn obligation. And that's one that I'm
Plausible
committed to
deniability.
going
Plausible
forward.
deniability. That's just over and over. You
In
and
this
the Bidens.
email, Hunter Biden acknowledges his attendance at a meeting between Mexican President Nieto and then Vice President Biden, discusses business deals and partnerships with a wealthy and politically connected Mexican family, references access provided to Mexican businessmen at the White House and Vice President's house, and states he had already delivered on every single thing you've ever asked. Did this email, or does this email, raise concerns that Hunter Biden might have acted contrary to FARA, since it appears he never registered to represent foreign principals?
So I'm not familiar with the email that you're referring to. What I can tell you is that it is a fundamental principle of the Justice Department and consistent with my almost 20-year career that we follow the facts and the law in every case without regard
So you're not familiar, but you're not
politics
familiar with
or
this, right?
ideology.
You're not familiar with this this email here.
I'm
We
not.
have next up, we're going to show you a picture of Vice President Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Miguel Alemán, his father, and Carlos Slim, one of the richest men in the world, in 2015, while Joe Biden was vice president. This picture seems to conflict with President Biden's statement that he has never met with his son's business associates. Much of the information regarding Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings has come from the laptop that was abandoned by Hunter Biden and labeled by the media as misinformation, as well as by 51 former intelligence officers in a weird letter dated October 19, 2020, which I will submit for the record. This week, we learned FBI whistleblowers have come forward and reported the FBI committed a widespread effort within the FBI to downplay or discredit negative information about Hunter Biden. Are you familiar with that reporting?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Has any investigation of Hunter Biden by your office been influenced by the work product or actions taken by FBI agent Timothy Thibault?
So I'm not going to comment on any investigation that may or may not be ongoing. What I can assure you is that we follow the facts and evidence, and we apply the law and the principles of federal prosecution in every single case without regard to ideology or politics.
So you are unaware, because you're unaware of the reporting, so you're unaware of any efforts within the Department of Justice to label derogatory information on Hunter Biden as disinformation?
I'm not going to comment on any potential ongoing investigation.
Okay.